welcome everyone to the next Psalm of the Coptic class. We have with us as always Dr. Joseph Sidrak, and he will continue with the Coptic. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Sidrak to get us started with prayer. Whenever you're ready, go ahead, Dr. Sidrak.
In the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And this not to temptation, but deliver us from the evil one, through Christ Jesus our Lord. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever, amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, and we're just gonna keep moving along with what we always do with our Coptic lessons, and hopefully everybody's benefiting from the class, and hopefully you know enjoying it as well. I know languages are not always the easiest thing to learn, and they take a lot of practice and repetition to be able to pick them up, especially because it's not like if, for example, if you learn Spanish and then go visit Mexico for a month or something, or learn France and go immerse yourself in France for a month or something. For example, this Coptic's a little different, although we do in some senses we immerse ourselves in it in the church and tasbeha and things like that. We get exposed to it. So that's the main thing, is just the more exposure, the more you work at it, the better and better you get. And even myself, I'm still always trying to improve and improve and improve all the time. So anyway, hopefully, like I said, everyone's enjoying it, and we'll kind of keep moving along. Today's lesson, it's pretty simple. It's kind of similar to what we did before. We did some other prepositions with pronouns earlier on, and basically we've just got a few more that we're going to take today, and that's it. And we'll kind of keep reviewing what we did by doing again some more of the translations. So just to have some more of these prepositions with pronouns. A very common one that we'll see is menensa. Menensa means after. So menensa can stand alone and have a noun with it, or it can have a pronoun with it. So, like for example, in the liturgy, Abuna says "Pairation apot." Pairation ike apot. Menensa I non apot. That's I won't get the whole thing yet. So this is the part here. Menensa means after. So you've got the preposition followed by the noun. Pidipnon is a Greek word meaning supper or dinner. So after the dinner. Menensa pidipnon. But instead, if there's certain instances where you're not going to need the whole noun, you're going to use the pronoun. And remember, the pronoun is something that takes the place of the noun. So here we have our table that we always talk about of the pronouns, remember? Or of the famous table of the 6/7 boxes, depending on how you count it, or 8 boxes. So instead of having the entire noun, you have just the pronoun. So the way it changes is, the second person plural is as usual. Again, there's some other times, but as usual, it'll have the unconjugated or unchanged preposition with female. But then the rest, they follow again the same pattern that we've seen over and over again. Menensoi, remember the Yoda, is going to be for the first person singular. The kappa for the second person singular masculine. The omega assimilated, so imagine it's like a double omega, but it's kind of just melted into one, menen so. So it looks like, you know, like what we talked about, all of these forms, they're the same as the feminine form, but then you have these other letters here. So this, so that's how you know what the feminine form is going to be in a lot of instances. So menen soy, menen sok, menen so, menen so, menen sos, menen son, like after us or behind us. And that's the other thing too. It can also mean behind or after, as well as after. Menen Safino we talked about a minute ago. And then Menen Sa U after them. Okay? So that's just the plural for that. Naharen, here they say at, but it's really kind of more like before, before something. So Menen Sa's after, and you think of this as almost like before. It's almost like the opposite of it, or in front of. And the reason you know that is because heren, its root here, it comes from the word ho, which has to do with the face, like somebody's face. So that's why you know that it's in front of somebody's face. So we're in front of the face of me, in front of the face of you, in front of the face of you feminine. Okay. So again, nahre. Like nahren moti, for example, before God or in front of God. You can stand like the angels are standing praising before God. Nahren moti, for example. Yeah, I can't think of the best example. We'll just start off the top of my head this one, but there's several. But we'll get some examples. But anyway, so the same pattern again. The iota again is the preposition. So the same thing. If you want to replace the noun with a pronoun, you can, just like in this instance. So the iota, you've got the iota here. So it's all going to follow the same pattern. So naharai, that's in front of me or before me. Naharak, you. Nahare, naharaf, nahras, nahran, before us. And naharentino, and the non-conjugated one with tino. That's for the second person plural. And nahral, or nahro. I've seen this different ways. You can have it with the O epsilon, or you can have it with just the epsilon and no O. And but for our purposes, we're just going to stick with this nahro. The other one also has a similar meaning of before, is jen. Remember we talked about e-gen and he-gen, now we've got jen. So if you remember, jen means head. So jen means under the head. So that's why it's another way of saying like before, because it's like under the head of something. It's before, right in front of something, or before something. So same thing, jen tino. Okay. Chagoy, again it's got the iota. Chago, 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 chagos, chagon, chagen tino, and chago. Okay, so same pattern. Everything follows the same exact pattern. So if there's any questions, again, you can feel free to let us know at any point. But again, these ones are just going to be exposed to these, and then really it's just kind of the repetition of the going through the translations over and over and over again. That's really going to help to let all these things sink in. Empeento. So again, remember we talked about ho means face. So ho is buried in here because the theta is always a construct of tav and hori. So this is almost like tav, hori, o. So ho is in there. So that's where it comes. That's why you know it means in front of the face of or before the face of, or in other words, like in front of. So, but the difference is this one doesn't conjugate at the ending. This conjugates at the possessive adjective. So this is this is like at the face of, and then if you have a noun after it, for example. But this is in pa empto. So pa empto means my. So this is at my face or in front of me. Or in pic empto. Remember, this is all it is just replacing this possessive adjectives that we already learned. So nothing changes except for the possessive adjective portion of it. So in front of you is going to be in pic empto. In front of you, feminine, in pih empto. In pif empto. In pes empto. In pin empto. In pitin empto. And em poempto. The next one that we're going to review is sa menhe. Sa menhe. And that means behind. I don't know the exact etymological root of this one, but sa means like at, has to do with the location. So sa men he. Here again, the preposition here again is a iota. Sa men heek, behind you. Sa menhe. Again, this matches up with this unconjugated form. Sa men heath, behind him. Sa men heath. And you may recognize Sa men heath from the hymn to Nav et Anastasis, where it talks about the women, and it goes Sa men heath and Jemi Hiomi Tiro. Sa men heen, Sa men hetino, and Sa men heyo. Behind them, Sa men heyo. So again, that's just kind of a summary of a few more of the prepositions, similar to the ones we took before. But there's, these are all, there's really no kind of, simple way. Just learning the basic form, and then getting exposed to the conjugations, and you'll be able to pick these things up because everything keeps following the same pattern. So, but again, I just kind of wanted to go over this because that's the next lesson before we start going into some more of the translations and things. So if anybody has any questions so far, please let us know. And actually, I do believe I'm not. I need to switch my screen over because I don't even think I'm doing the screen sharing, am I? But hopefully you were following along on the. Hopefully you're following along on the on your own page. So sorry about that. Okay, so just as a summary, all these things are listed online, and these are some of the examples as I was typing. So, Naharinat Noti, that's pretty much all that I really wrote, and I wrote Pariti on Pika Airport Man, those are the only things that I really wrote. So, again, sorry about that. I forgot to do the screen share, so you won't see anything that I was pointing out. But anyway, again, there's nothing too complex with these things. It's just Or nothing too tricky with it. It really is just kind of familiarizing yourself with these conjugations again. So anyway, let's go to the Coptic Bible reading. So today is the 22nd of Hatur. The 22nd of Hatur. And so we can just go through some of these readings. And again, these readings are actually, for the evening raising of incense. It would have been last night's reading for Vespers, actually. So we'll just kind of start going through some of these. Psalmos to David, Alleluia. Ari Emi, Je Ad Choice, Ethro Ereshpiri, and Pieth Oab and Taf. Choice, Eth Esotin Eroi, and Pajin Osh Ovi. Af Omini, Ehri Egon, and JF Oini, and Tepeko Choice. Akti and Uonof, Achri Epahit. Alleluia. Okay. So let's break this down into pieces here. So Ari Emi. Emi means is the verb meaning to know. And Ari is the imperative form of iri, which means to do or make something. So this is a command of to know. So this is know, and know what? Know je. So it's kind of like the opening of a quotation mark, but here it's, or you can say that. Know that. Ari emi je, know that. A choice. Ethro ereshpiri. So choice, is the abbreviation for the Lord. Odd choice means, the A is going to be the past tense marker. We haven't gotten to this prefix yet, but ethro means to cause or make something happen. So the Lord has made something happen. What has he made happen? He has made them, ethro, because you're going to see that this O, epsilon, like we just talked about, that means them, the third person plural. So the Lord has made them or caused them. And eshpiri. Eshpiri is like a miracle or a wonder, something that's wondrous. And we just talked about Ari. So we haven't gone through this verb yet, I don't think, but the root verb is iri, which means, like I said, to do or make. Ari, like hos erof arihu chess, for example, like arihu chess. So Ari is the imperative form of iri, the verb to do or make. But it's used a lot when it's prefixed to nouns to actually turn them into verbs. So it turns into like a compound verb basically. So for example, the example we just looked at, eshviri. So we're taking this noun, which is something that's a wonder or a miracle or a marvel or something amazing. And eshviri means to do a wonder or to do a miracle or do a wonder or do something amazing. So suddenly this noun is basically turned into a verb. So the Lord has caused them to be wonderful. And what is it? What is it that he caused to be wonderful? MPF Oab and Toph. And Toph, remember we talked about the to have. What was it? Won and T, won and talk, won and talk, won and toss, etc. So won and talk. So remember what it means is won. Let's do the example of the third person plural for just like this example. Won and talk, or M1 and talk. Remember that's the negative of it. Okay. So what does it mean? Remember we talked about it's good to know exactly what it means and not just to know exactly what each part means. So Remember we said there is of him, or there is not of him. That basically means he has it or he doesn't have it. But this means of him. Of him. And again, because it had the same suffix, so we know who we're talking about. So let's just ignore this first part, and then we just have this of him. So over here, we have the F-O-A-B and Taf. The F-O-A-B and Taf. So we have the... So how do we know which relative this is? Remember we talked about the relative? Or pet, or pet. This prefix pet, or pet, depending on if it has the next word that starts with the bil manur group. It can be either a assimilation or combination of p, et, or pe, et. And how do you know what it is? You have to look. You have to just look at the sentence and to know if an article should belong there, or this. I think they called it the linking verb to be or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it's called the copula is the grammatical term for it. C-O-P-U-L-A. But in our textbook, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. But remember, like for example, Anok Pe Romi. So this is what I'm talking about, the pe. Like I am the man. Okay. But also, this can be a combination of the definite article with the relative. So you have to look at the sentence to see if it should have pe or if it should have p. So let's go back to the sentence and look and figure it out. So he caused them to be wonderful. M, P, F, O, E, and Taf. So something of him. So obviously we know that we're trying to turn the Oeb, the holy things. It's not Pe F Oeb, but it's P F Oeb. So he has made them marvelous or wonderful, the holy things of him. So that's why it says he has made his holy one wonderful. Oh, and excuse me, I said the holy things, but it's actually the holy thing because this is singular. It's not Ni F Oeb and Taf, it's Peth Oeb and Taf. So he has made his holy, like his holy thing wonderful. So, kind of a little bit of a tricky sentence, but, once you break it down into pieces, that's why I always want to, learn things at their roots, because then you can break down these complex things a little bit more clearly. Okay, the next one. Choice again, the Lord. We haven't taken this verb form either, but this is, again, it's indicating something that will definitely happen in the future. The third, it's called the third future, but we'll get into that later. Sotem is the verb to hear. Remember, since it's a verb of the senses, we're going to have the direct object with e instead of the may. So because it's one of the verb of the senses, so sotem eroi. So the Lord shall hear me. So they always say shall with f because that's instead of will, because it's shall is like the more like definitive form of it, of the future. So the Lord shall hear me. Chen, remember, it means in, at, by, with. So Lord shall hear me in pa. We haven't gone to this prefix of jin, but we'll talk about it. Just basically think of jin as putting ing on the word. So that's why we say osh ovith. Osh ovith means to cry out unto him. So jin, think of it as like Coptic version of G-I-N. So it's easy. So you put cry, but you put the ing on the back. So my cry. So that's the way I always remember it. So the Lord will listen to me in my pa. possessive adjective. Jin'osh, crying. Uvif. Remember, we took those prepositions, similar to the prepositions we took today, but we took it, I think, at the very end of last semester, if I remember correctly. Uve means against. It can mean like towards or against something. Uve is the root one. So when we conjugate it, it's o, v, o, vik, uve. Remember, it goes back to that unconjugated form. Uv, which is what we have here, the third person singular masculine. Uvis, uvin, uve, ino. And uveiu. Okay. So the Lord shall hear me in my jin'osh, in my crying, towards him or against him or to him. Because uve means against, like pushing up against. So my crying out up against him or to him. Omini. Okay, so just like up here, and we talked about it turns this noun into a verb. Because this we have er. So mini. Mini is another word for like a wonder or a miracle. Or it can also mean like a signal or symbol. Or a sign, actually. I'm trying to think of the best word. It's more like a sign. Okay? So it's like a sign or a symbol is probably the best way to think of it. So, past tense, he made a sign. Heri egon. Remember, egon means basically upon our heads. But not really, literally, that's literally what it means, but it means upon us. So he made a symbol upon us, namely, nje, F-O-O-N-I. So who's the he? The he is he. They're talking about F-O-O-N-I and Tepekho. So F-O-O-N-I, the definite article. O-O-N-I is light. And Te, remember that's basically the unconjugated form of Intaf, of Inte. Pekho, of your face, Lord. So he made a sign or symbol upon me, namely the light of your face, O Lord. So that's why they say the light of your face, countenance is the same as face. The light of your face, O Lord, has made a mark upon us. Over here we see he has made a symbol upon us, namely the light of your face, O Lord. So it's just kind of same thing, but it's kind of just the words are in a different order. Akti, you gave. Remember, ti means to give. What did you give? Unuf. Unuf means to be happy or glad or joy. They have it over there. So you gave gladness or joy. Ekhri. Ekhri means, these are the directional adverbs. So this ehri means upwards direction, and ekhri means downwards direction. So it's very subtle nuances. It doesn't really mean a whole lot when we look at it in English, but in Coptic it's different. So I don't really want to get into it right now, but that's just the difference between ehri and ekhri. So this is like something is going in upwards direction upon our heads, and here it's something is going in a downwards direction to our hearts. So you gave gladness. Think of it as down to pahit, my heart. Okay. So that's a nice psalm there. A lot of things to be able to, to examine there grammatically and otherwise. So let's go ahead and go through the gospel. Okay. Doxasi Otheos Homon, reading from the gospel according to Matthew, and his blessings be upon us. Amen. Emon umatitis efut pefrifti isbo. وذا uvok efut epif choice. Keen epimatitis entef emifriti and pefrifti isbo. Owopivok entef emifriti and pef choice. Isja pineb'i of moti erof jebel zabol pos u malon nefremen i. امبير إرهوتي أون خاتوهي إمون بتوب صغار جاءت مشورت إيفول آن وذا إمون بتيب جسنا أمي إيروف آن في أتيجو إمو فنوتين خن بكاكي أجوف خن إفقوني وفي أتاتتن صوتين إيروف خنة الماج هي أوش إمو في جنة جنفور أو إمبير إرهوتي خاتي أنفيت مخوتي بمبتن سوما تتن ابسيكي ذا امون اجكم اما او خدت اريهوتي ذا انتوف خاتي امثيتا ون اجكم اموف اتي بسيكي من بيسوما اتاكا او خنتي جانا مي شاغس ناف ان اتوتي اما او ايفول خاوتيري او واي ايفول نخيتو انف هي اجن بكاي اتشنيبة تهنبة نيوت اتخنف اوي انتوتين ذا نيكافوي النتن افه سيب تيرو Per hoti on titten ut gar omischen shag. وأني فان إثناء أون هيفول انخيط بإمثو إني رومي تينا أون هيفول انخيط فهو بإمثو إمبايوت اتخني في أول في إثناء قلت إيفول بإمثو إني رومي تينا قلت إيفول هو بإمثو إمبايوت اتخني في أول في أو فات بالنوتي بيشا أن أنتني نتيرو أمي. Okay, so let's break this, go through this, and just continue going on. So the first word here, M1 basically means it's just means no or not. It's basically like a negative. So that means not, or like there is not, for example. I remember we talked about M1 and Taf. So here is Un and Taf, there is of him, and Mon and Taf, there is not of him, or he does not have. So this means not. So not, Umatitis. Matitis is the Greek word for disciple. So not. So there is not a disciple. F uut. Uut means superior or greater. So F uut. So there is not a disciple. He being greater. Greater than what? When you are comparing one thing to another thing, you use to compare them. So you're comparing the matitis to frifti isbo. Frifti isbo comes from isbo, meaning wisdom. T means to give, so T isbo. Rif is a person who is doing something. So Rifti isbo is a person who is doing, giving wisdom. So in other words, a teacher or master, or basically like a teacher, someone who's teaching somebody. So that's why it says, there is not a disciple, he being greater to his teacher. So there is no disciple greater than his teacher. Uveh is a Greek word meaning neither or nor. Uvok, uvok is a servant. Neither a servant, same thing. Uut, so neither is there a servant. Uut, greater. Greater than what? Greater than, means than, his master or lord. Lord and master are pretty much interchangeable. So there is no disciple greater than his teacher, neither a servant greater than his Lord, or above, or superior to. Keen means enough. That's basically the equivalent of like kifaya. Really keen, that's enough. So it is enough for the disciple, himatitis. Intif air. This is the conjunctive, but we haven't gotten to that yet, but we'll go into it later. Intif air. Remember, we just talked about it several times because we're going to see air all the time, all day long. You're going to see air in Coptic. Air emefriti and pefriti as well. So it is enough for the disciple to become, to be, remember air emefriti. So emefriti means the riti means manner, and efriti means the manner or like. So air emefriti means to be like his Kurifti Ezbo, his teacher. So it is enough for the disciple to be like his teacher. And evoke the servant again, and air emefriti, same exact thing, and choice, and the servant to be like his master or lord. Isja means if. That's just one of the just a word that we'll have to learn, or we'll see it a lot anyway. So isja means if. Neb-e. So remember, E means, sorry, I keep getting these boxes popping up. So E means house. Neb comes from the word nib, but when it's prefixed to a word, it's neb instead of nib. So if nib of choice, from the various prayers, nib means master. Neb is when it's prefixed. So the master of the house, it turns this into one word. The master of the house. So if the master of the house of Moti Ero, Moti means to call. So they called him Jebilzebul. Remember, it's like the quotation marks. So if the master of the house, they call him Beelzebul. Remember, we talked about the passive voice last time. So there is really no they that's there. It's just there's no way to say the master of the house is called such and such in Coptic. So they would say they called him such and such. But there's no they out there. It's just, we just know that the third person plural, it's the passive voice is what we call it. So if the master of the house, they call him Beelzebul, or in other words, if the master of the house is called Beelzebul, pos u malon, this is a Greek here, and it's a common phrase. It's actually used in Coptic, so, or at least in some of the biblical readings. So, there's really no Coptic in this highlighted area here. It's just strictly Greek, but it's used a lot. So it just means, so how much more are his members of his household? So E means house, Ren means people of the house, and Nif is the plural possessive adjective. So how much more how much more are his house members? Impair erhoti. So here's er again. Hoti means fear. So erhoti means to be afraid. Impair means do not. It's imperative of do not. So do not be afraid. Therefore, that's a Greek word again, therefore. So do not be afraid, therefore. Ha, tu, he. He is like the front of something. Tu, he means their front, and ha is under. So under their front, or basically in front of them, basically is what it means. So therefore, do not be afraid in front of them. So here it says, fear them not, therefore. Emon petobs. Hobs means to cover. Remember, emon means there is not. We just talked about above. So emon petobs. So which pet is this? So think about it for a minute before I give away the answer. Is it P etobs or P etobs? So just think about it. It's actually the equivalent of P etobs. So there is not the which is covered, or in other words, a hidden thing. So there is not a hidden or covered thing. And for, again, this always follows, but in English, this is you imagine if it's before. So for there is nothing covered or there's nothing hidden. Je, if not short evil. Short evil means to reveal. Short evil means to reveal. So there is nothing hidden, which it will be revealed not. Neither, again, the Greek word, there is nothing, same type of pit. There is nothing which is hidden, which they will, sena emi, they will. Remember, we talked about emi means to know. Know, because it's the verb of the senses, so it's going to be erof instead of emo, which they will know it not. So in other words, there is nothing hidden which will not be revealed. Neither is there is nothing hidden which will not be known. Remember again, here's the passive voice again. It's a third person plural. There's no they out there, but for the third person plural, it's used just as the passive voice. So you're going to see that a lot. So if you're trying to figure out who's the they, there really is no they. It just means passive voice. Be, remember the further demonstrative that we talked about, that etigo emmo. So this is kind of a combination. Remember we talked about before further demonstrative, right? But we didn't get into it yet. But the et can be combined with basically the same as like some of the previous conjugations. So we can combine it with like T. That's what we have in this sentence. So if we go back here, this is basically combined now over here. So fi et ti. So that which I go emo, say it, that which I say it, noten to you, the direct object and indirect object. That which I say it to you. And instead of like T, for example, you can have, I'm just going to write them over here. Fi et ik. If. It is. So that's how, if you're going to combine the relative with the simple present tense. So that which I say it to you, plural. Kaki. Kaki means darkness, in the darkness. Agof chen efoin. Agof. So this is the again the in a few verbs, the a, you don't want to get confused with the past tense. It actually means imperative form of the verb go, is to say. So say what? You've got the preposition here, the third person singular masculine. So what is it? What is this? What are they talking about here? this he is referring to this. The thing this thing up here is summarized in this preposition. So let's go back again to try to explain it. So that which I say to you in the darkness, say it. So this it that he's talking about here is that which I say to you. So say it, chen f-o-in, in the light, f-o-in. Huwa, and fi etetin, or yeah, fi etetin. So just like we talked about over here. Fi etetin, that which you, plural, hear it in your ears. Chen nitin majd. Hioish means to like preach or proclaim. Hioish imo, it. Hijen, upon. Remember, upon the head or based on top of. Hijen. Nitin. That's the third person, excuse me, second person plural, possessive adjective. Your. Jenifor is just the Coptic word for rooftop or roof. So preach it upon your roofs or your housetops, that says over there. So agof is the imperative of say it. Say what? What's this? What's this it? This it again is that which I told you, or that which I tell you. Say it. Chinif oini owofi it in the light. Owofi etetin sotin ero, and that which you hear it. Chinifin maj in your ears. He oish immof, proclaim it. He jan nitin jenifor, upon your roofs or housetops. Owo and imper erhoti. We already talked about that. Do not be afraid. Cha'ati, before. We already talked about cha'ati. Under or before the front of. So that means in front of. So do not be afraid before. And fi ifna. So same thing. The further demonstrative with the relative of that which na is the future. That which will. Chotib means to kill. That which will kill. Pitin soma. Soma is the Greek word for body. So pitin soma means your body, plural, your body, plural, or you, plural, body. So do not be afraid of that which will kill your body. So the Greek particle, it goes in the second part of it, the second word of the sentence, but in English, the but would be the first part. So when you see this in English, you would say it'd be like as if you had the because we say but your soul. So the means but. So but your soul. Emon ishgom emma'u. Okay, so what is emon ishgom? Emon ishgom, again, emon there is not. We talked about that a lot because you're going to see the negative. That means no or not or there is not. Ishgom, gom means power or ability or strength. And ish means to be able to or can or to be able. So let's put it all together. So there is not be able power. So it basically means it is not possible or it cannot. So over here are not able to. So there is not able strength. So there is no strength or there's no ability of them. So they are not able to do what? Khudbis. So it's the verb of khotib, which we just talked about. Khotib. But now it's in the pre-pronominal form because it's got the suffix of the sima of the third person singular feminine. So emun ishgom emma'u ekhudbis. So it is not possible for them to kill it. And who's this her over here, which is Sima? It's feminine. It's this. So your soul, but they are not able to kill it. Kill her, but this her, because this is feminine, this is feminine. So they are not able to kill it. So instead of irhoti or imper irhoti, now we have arihoti. So arihoti is imperative of to do something, but it's not negative anymore. Remember, imper irhoti means do not, but now we're saying do be afraid, but the imperative form. So do be afraid, but do be afraid. Intuf. Intuf actually means but also, just like this. So occasionally, it's very rare, but occasionally you'll see intuf. Like in the Thanksgiving prayer, we say intuf on manitiho. And some other places, it actually is not the pronoun intuf of him, but actually, but it means but. It's just like sometimes in Arabic, actually, it's the same thing. Like you say ho'eda, like hoa. It means him, but it doesn't really mean him. It means whatever. Ho'eda. There's no him. Him, what is this? It's just ho'eda. That's the same thing in Coptic. So arihoti de intuf. So sometimes they'll duplicate these things in the Greek and the Coptic. They'll put them back to back, but they both have the same meaning. Okay. So instead of imper hoti, now we're saying arihoti. So be afraid, but be afraid. Kha'ati before, and fi ete u'un ijgom immo. So we had immun ijgom immo, or immun ijgom over here. So it is not able to do something, but now we have, but be afraid of that who is able, or is capable, or there is strength of him, is the best way to think of it. There is strength of him, or there is ability of him, or in other words, one who is able. So he is able of the soul, nempisoma, in the body. Taka'u. Taka'u comes from the verb taco, not the food taco, so I know what I mean now, so I don't get too hungry about it. But taco is a verb meaning to destroy. So again, you can conjugate it again and using it in the pre-pronominal forms that we talked about before. I think in the last week or two's lessons. Let's see, I lost my place. Okay, taka'u, so to destroy them. Taka'u. Then tige'enna. In ge'enna. Ge'enna means hell, or the fire. Actually, it's the place of fire. But here we're just translating it as hell. So, arihoti the intuf, but be afraid kha'ati before fi ete u'un ijgum immu, he who there is the ability of him, eti epsiki nempisoma, of the soul and the body, etaka'u, to destroy them, khenti ge'enna, in ge'enna, in hell. So just to summarize it, do not be afraid of that who will kill your soul, or who will kill your body, but your soul, he is not able to kill it, or they're not able to kill it. But be afraid of him whom there is ability of him over the soul and the body to destroy them in Hades, or in hell. And then we have this me. Again, remember this means the question mark, but it's used in rhetorical questions, even though kind of in certain textbooks they use it for any question, but in general it's for rhetorical questions. Me. Chag snuti an etoti emma'u evil. So T evol means to sell. T emma'u evol means to sell emma'u, sell them. Eto T. Remember eto, we just talked about it a minute ago. When you have the relative with the present tense. So me. Chag snuti an Chag is like a bird, a small bird or a sparrow. Snoti, remember, it's the Coptic number 2. So, and on is not. So, me, Chag is Snoti on. Are two sparrows not? Do they sell them for 1 tevi, which is like a type of money here? They call it a farthing. I don't know what its exact equivalent is. Maybe it's like a penny or something. Yeah, I guess it's a penny because we say tevi isnoti and teti shira, the 2 pennies of the widow. So maybe it's equivalent like a penny. So they're saying in a rhetorical sense, do they not sell 2 sparrows for a penny? And why evil and chito, and one of them, and one from in chito. Remember, chito is the preposition form of chen, or the conjugated preposition form of chen, and one from in them. He shall not fall upon the earth without petehne. P, it's ehne. That means we haven't gotten to it, but ehne means the will. Without the will of your father, peteniot, in heaven. So, and one of them will not fall upon the ground without the will of your father. And one of them shall not fall on the ground without your father's will. So, anyway, I think that's good for today. It's getting close to the 1 hour mark. So, I think now that we're starting to get through a lot of the grammatical things, we can really kind of sink into some of the grammar and kind of start breaking it down in detail. So hopefully, like we started off saying before, hopefully everyone's kind of really starting to enjoy the class a lot more now that we've gotten exposed to a lot of things, and I can really try to appreciate it more. For those of you who have stuck it out this far. If you have any questions or anything, let us know. There's no really specific homework for this time, but again, I just encourage you to keep trying to read these things and trying to translate them and figure them out on your own. And if you get stuck anywhere, feel free to send me a message or anything anytime. And I guess I'll just check with the moderator and see if you have any questions or anything. But if not, we'll probably conclude here.
Thank you, Dr. Sidrak. I think there are no questions for now, but you guys go ahead and email us whenever you do have a question, and we'll definitely forward Dr. Sidrak. Will be able to see and answer them on the next question. Please keep checking your SAF online and finishing strong for the end of the semester. Other than that, I'll just turn it over back to Dr. Sidrak to conclude with prayer.
Okay. Let me just go up to prayer here. Okay. So فعلا بيوت بشيري بنما ثواب ونوت ينوت أمين جيت نيوت تخني في أول معرف توفو جيت فران معرف أنجتك متقورو بيت هناك معرف شوبي إن فريتي خانت فاه نام هي جنبي كاهي بين أويك انتراستي نيت نانم فو أو كان يتقرن نان إيفل إن فريتي هون إنتن كو إيفل ni ete wonentan erou. Owo emper enten kon epirasmus. Allah nahmen evol ha pikatou. Khanda Christos Isos penchois. Jetok te timet uru. Enti gom. Enti ou. Sha'ane. Enti ene. Tiro amin. Khenefran mfiot. Mebshiri. Entebnema thawab. Unut yenowut amin. Okay, everybody, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.